So, hi, I'm Gemma Pearce. I'm one of the people organising the event today with many fabulous co-creators. So please do tweet. We've got @CoCreatingWelfare and #CoCreatingWelfare. So, Co-Creating Welfare Project is the reason that today has happened. It's funded by Erasmus+, and it's predominantly organised by a fabulous team at Coventry University here, but with all of other co-creators that have come on the course and been part of the Co-Creating Welfare project. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to start off today just introducing what the Co-Creating Welfare project is, what we did over the 3 years that the project has happened. It's due to finish in August this year. And some key reflections that we've had with everybody that's been part of it, because the key thing is that we have learned as we've gone on, and we've been part of the co-creation, even though we've been mainly as a role as facilitators. And then why this event has happened today, and the next steps and what's happened from there and where this goes. So who are we? So the main people leading it for the UK, because this is a European project at Coventry University, the main people working on it as researchers and as trainers are myself and Paul McGee. Give a wave, Paul. So my background is in health predominantly and education. I am from a sports science, physical activity and supporting people with long-term conditions background. I'm a researcher, and I've been a researcher for 13 years now. And I have mainly, across my career, been more and more working with people rather than to people. I've worked on a range of participatory approaches. I've also, so this building is part of Coventry City Council. I've also worked as a 2-year secondment into the Public Health Department at Coventry City Council, thinking about how to sort of bridge the gap between working with the community, academia, and public health at the council as well. Paul was originally a car designer by background, and found that originally this was largely working in sort of large-scale management role, and made a shift in his career in the want to work with people on a smaller scale, really getting to know what people want, working with people and designing things that make a real difference in practice. Paul now works as a senior designer in our research centres, working with us to develop products and services. And there's a stand at the back with Liz Bailey on one of the products that they've designed and co-created together as well. So go and check that out. We've got 4 different stands at the back, so please do go and have a look in your breaks. So the Co-Creating Welfare project. So check out the website. Over the 3 years, the website that has been running has basically been the process of the project. But what we're doing is we're collating all of the tools and the good news stories and all the different things that's come out of this project. And the website is in the process of changing. So by the end of the project, it will be a final website that will have access to all the, like, films. So this talk is being filmed today and will be on the website. There'll be lots of different stories and tools for you to have a look at on the website. So please do keep an eye on it and keep track of that change. We're going to have a final conference where the final website will be launched in July. And just to acknowledge our project partners, so we've been working, so UK is obviously one of them, but we've also been working with partners in Denmark, France and Portugal, and with the main PIs being based in the South Denmark office in both Denmark and in Brussels. So there's many levels of co-creation within this project. We started off just thinking, oh yes, it's just a co-creation project, we're going to be working with people. And the more we got into it, the more we realised how many different layers there are to co-creation, because you can just keep on going and going and going and getting deeper. So we co-created a co-creation course using co-creation tools to teach co-creation for people to co-create their co-creation in their own context. So what do we do to start off with? Well, we each different country worked with 4 different sites. So we worked with NHS England, the local Coventry and Warwickshire Hospital, UHCW, and their cardiac and pulmonary rehab facilities, Macmillan, and Birmingham South Central Clinical Commissioning Group. And we work with them, and the other countries work with 4 of their local and national partners. And the idea was to think about what was needed. So we're going to develop this co-creation course and some training tools. What would you like? Where are you at in terms of co-creation? We did a needs analysis across the different countries to see how co-creation was being used, what it was being called. And we found that it did differ across different countries. UK, I think we're pretty good, but there was a whole difference, and there is the report for that if you want more information on the website. And one of the things that we found, though, is even when it is recognised, it's inconsistently used, and it's understood differently by different people. And in particular to the UK, we often use the term co-production, and co-creation is generally more of an international European word that is used. So it's often depending on the funder, depending on what word is being used. So. And one of the key things is that, I don't know how well you can see the yellow because of the sun coming through, but that professionals wanted different skills and competencies to help them think about how they would do co-creation and how it would actually be able to be done in practice. So that's what we focused on. So there's sort of 8 key points there. So about promoting that sense of legitimacy among people taking part in the co-creation process, promoting empowerment and a shared understanding of the process. Then also looking at problem formulation and solution formulation, which we will focus on quite a lot today, and the management process of co-creation process and using of the tools. Thinking about how to mediate, how to facilitate those tools with others, how to disseminate and communicate your tools, and how to evaluate and create impact and sustainability. So we then got together after looking at this needs analysis, and we decided, we put together this training course, which has got 4 key themes. So those key themes have basically been the underlying thing behind all of this. And you'll see on your lanyards, you've got postcards, and on these they've got a bit more about the themes and different activities within those themes. So please do check them out and have a look. And so the 4 key themes are around getting on the same page, creating a common understanding of co-creation between the people taking part, thinking about identifying what the problems are, identifying what those solutions are, and managing that co-creation process, and then the dissemination communication. So they're what the whole project's been based around, these key 4 themes. So we developed a 4-day training course that we piloted, and there's quite a few people in the room that came on it. I don't know if you came on it, if you want to just give a wave to people, so if anyone wants to chat, you can find out more. And so what we basically did was we put those 4 themes into 4 days, and each training day had 1 month apart, and the idea was that people would come on the course, learn some tools, and then go back and have a go at doing it in their practice, and then come back and say, well, this is what worked well, these are the issues I had, and then the course, in the spirit of co-creation, was iteratively developed, responding to that feedback and incorporating some of those challenges in on how to approach them, and co-creating some of the solutions. So we had 35 people attend the course in total, starting with 29 people on the first day, and then ending on 15, but some people came, some people dropped out. And the main reason for dropping out was about changes in work, and that's one of the key things in the welfare setting is, changes in roles happens quite a lot and quite rapidly, so it's about how to think about people coming in and going out. So if you're working on a co-creation process, it's thinking about how to manage that. So we had a whole range of people, so from the original pilot sites that we did the needs analysis with, but also other things like physiotherapists, maternity care, independent consultants working in welfare, education, and you'll hear a lot more about that and where it's gone on across the day. So as a result of the need to manage the process, and as a result of the fact that some people would prefer that the course was actually one day and more of a sort of just to getting to know the themes and finding out if they like it and want to know more. And other people said that it would be really good as a university module. So what we decided to do was think about it more flexibly in terms of those 4 themes rather than as 4 days. So we created this co-creation toolkit around those 4 themes, and as I said, like a lot of it's on some of it's on the postcards, but there's a lot more, and you'll get more of that feel as the day goes on, and I'm going to talk you through some of those things on the toolkit. But first of all, what is co-creation? When we're talking about co-creation, what do we mean? So we're basing, we quite like the Sanders and Stappers definition, and the idea around it about this collective creativity. Collective as a group, doing it together. It's no good if like individuals are doing things and then it's put together and analysed by someone else. It's got to be a collective process that you go through. And the creativity side, often people come to us and say, well, I'm not very creative. I wasn't very good at art at school and I can't really draw, so it's not me. But what we want to emphasise, and I hope you get a feel for today, is that creativity is just about generating ideas, it's about working together, thinking a bit outside the box, and hopefully some of these tools that we have can help facilitate that process. And the Danish Voluntary Council have the 6 principles of co-creation, about being something that's innovative to create new ideas and new qualities through the combination of a range of different people with different resources and different skills coming together. It's a dialogue-based process where people work together to define the challenge, so you start right from the beginning, not assuming what the challenge is and thinking you know what the solution is. It's about thinking about the right to participate, that people have a right to have a say in the things that are being developed if it's relevant to them. Creating that understanding of interdependence, so working together, not dependent on each other, but also not independently. And it requires openness and a willingness to take risks and sort of go with the flow a bit. You know, it's a bit of a messy process. You have to be okay with the fact that you don't know the answer from the start. And we just want to acknowledge, we're not saying this is something new. This is something that's existed under a range of different names over a period of time. So, you know, there's an underlying action research, participatory action research behind some of the things, but, you know, participatory approaches, co-production, involvement, engagement, you've got a whole range of different words that people use, and it's about thinking about the words that we're using and what they mean, and how we're portraying that philosophy of the words we're using. It's about involving a variety of people. Everyone's an expert in their experiences, and thinking about who your co-creators are. Involving people from the beginning, and one of the key things that came out was about this use of safe space. So today we've purposely, even though this is hosted by Coventry University, not held it in an academic space. We've held it in a lovely building with stained glass windows to try and encourage a bit of creativity and to be somewhere that's quite neutral. And it is a process. It's not a snapshot. It doesn't just happen as a one-off method. It's a philosophy that you embed within the way that you work. It can be messy, but that's okay, and you just have to sort of embrace that as you're going with it. So thinking about who your co-creators are, one of the things that we often get approached with is, I'm a member of staff and I want to involve people. If I do that, is that co-creation? And one of the things that we just want to sort of put out to think about is this idea that anyone can start the co-creation process, and it's about who can create a barrier to that process or a success to that process. We recommend to be involved in the co-creation process. So if you're a professional or a patient and you get together and you think, right, okay, we've come up with the problems and we've solved this, but then you want to get funding and the commissioner puts up a barrier, or your manager puts up a barrier. You have to think about all the different people that can create those barriers along the process and try and involve them from the start. And likewise, anyone that can help push that on. You know, if there's a commissioner involved from the beginning, they can help make that successful. So it's about thinking about that. It's okay to be wrong early on. So this was the original design for the Rubik's Cube. And it's about that process and that iterative process. And a lot of people just want to get it right first time and put it into practice. But actually, it's about that developmental process, that iterative process. And the other thing that people come with the worry is that it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of work. And we just don't have that time to do that. And that's understandable. I would say that everybody in this room is in the same boat. But one of the things that's just worth noting is that often what happens if you develop an educational course or a service in health, there's been an assumption about what the problem is and an idea about what those solutions are. And they might get put in practice, and then people don't come, or people have issues with the service, or they don't like the course that you've developed. And actually, it takes a lot more effort and time to then backtrack and then try and tweak that to actually get it to what is the thing that people wanted in the first place. So the idea is, so obviously you can see on that top one, you've got a little bit of time and effort at the beginning, but actually it takes more towards the end. Whereas if you're doing co-creation, the idea is that you put in the time and effort at the beginning to get it right, and then it's just a small iterative process of tweaks. Also, the idea is that I'm not coming to you as an expert. I've been involved in this process, so I know this project and I know this stuff, but actually I've been acted as a facilitator. And the idea is that we're facilitating the process. We learn as well by being part of the process. And actually, there's some great solutions and some problems that we'd never thought of ourselves that came out of the course. And so we learn, even though we were facilitators, we learn as being part of that. And it was a brilliant experience, I think, for everybody involved. So as a facilitator, it's just about supporting those processes and dialogues, trying to encourage everybody to have a voice and staying on task. But it's also about thinking about different roles and responsibilities and trying to share those within the people that are creating and not taking it all on yourself. So one of the first things that we found is really useful is to co-create the rules from the beginning. So hopefully when you all came in, you put some words on some post-it notes about the importance of engaging with people today. So what we'll do is we're going to put that together in a word cloud and we'll put that up on the break. And we just want you to bear in mind when you're working today, what people here today think is important as part of that engagement process. But it's about things like respecting other people's views and really actively listening to what people say. It's about that respect and not sort of offering sort of a threatening disagreement, but about open communication and a willingness to be part of that. And it's about being committed to build on each other's strengths and to think about how you're building together what the problems are and the solutions are. And the nice thing is that hopefully people will have nice surprises about things that they hadn't thought of today and come away with some great networks with each other and some great learning as well to think about how to take that back. So one of the things that we're quite proud of that you might have noticed is on your postcards that Paul has brilliantly designed into a little logo of define, design, refine. The idea behind that is what came out from the course is about what the process is. So the beginning process is about the co-defining what are the problems, what are the needs, working together to identify what resources people have, what conflicts people might have, thinking about the differences as well as the similarities, and really defining what the things are that you want to address. Then moving on to the kind of co-design process, where you think about solving those problems together and thinking about what actions can be done to implement those solutions. And then co-refine, which is about actually evaluating how that went, iteratively developing it, putting that feedback back into practice, sharing what you found, and then taking any feedback from that back into practice, and thinking about the sustainability and the impact. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the co-creation toolkit. So part of the things that we did in terms of getting to know you in that sort of first stage is about sort of brainstorming, sort of getting everyone thinking about what co-creation is or what it is, the topic that you're talking about. So word cloud is quite a useful thing, so that the use of the rules that we did with you guys this morning and turning that into a word cloud, that can be done in a whole range of different ways, and that's quite a nice way to sort of represent in a sort of colourful, fun way. And then the post-its as well is something that I'm sure like everybody is aware of, but one of the ways that we use it in terms of the rules is you can do it as a themed activity, so you can get everybody to write it down individually, but then you say, you know, okay, someone on this table, what did you think? And then they'll say, and you say, right, anybody else got something similar? And then they'll say, oh yes, I've got this, and then you can start to theme what people have come up with, and then you can put it all up on the wall, and then they've created that theme together. So that's another way that you can co-create the way that you engage with people together. So flip charts is another one that everybody knows, but one of the things that people sort of said was, okay, so often what happens is one person stands up and one person writes on the flip chart and they write down what they think everybody else has said. But actually it's about thinking about how everybody can be able to write on that flip chart and sort of putting a question up and sort of asking people to sort of annotate it and write their own words up themselves. Cue cards are great, so I could say to you, write down now on a piece of paper what you think co-creation is, and then you can put that in the room and you can all discuss, and it can be used as a stimulus, but you can also collect them all up and then share them with a different group and say, okay, this is what people said, put these in the priority of how important you think they are, and it can also help with priority setting. So the ladder of engagement, I'm not going to talk too much about that because that will be something that's in the first activity of today. But the idea is thinking about, you can ask people, where do you sit in terms of your level of collaboration at the moment? What do you think these words mean? And you know, how can you progress? Where do you want to be on the ladder? Walking and talking is a really good one. We were actually quite surprised at how well received this was. We just put it in as a small little thing at lunch on the course, and everyone really loved it. And it went hand in hand with a picture challenge as well. And it's about getting people outside or in a different place in the building that you're in, or just standing up and moving around, taking notice of the environment that you're in, and it helps people to think outside the box and to use metaphors. So, oh, you know, I see this new plant flowering because it's spring, and to me it's a sign of new beginnings, and in this co-creation challenge that I'm doing. And it just helps people to think about that. And with the photo challenge, you can ask people to, okay, what's your meaning for co-creation? Go and take a picture about what you think of it. And so Andrew Marsh is at the front here, is also going to be running a photo challenge throughout the day and also at lunchtime with the walk and talk, and I'll tell you a bit about that at the end. The Qsort is a good activity. This came from our French colleagues, and it's a really good way of getting people to think about what things mean. And it has lots of different statements, and you can either say collaboration is, or co-creation is, or co-production is. And it has different statements, and you ask people to choose the 3 that they think is co-creation and the 3 that they think is not co-creation. And it's really interesting because no one comes up with the same things. Everybody has a different idea. And when we did it on the course, people had done 2 days of the course getting to know co-creation together, and they still all came up with different things. And so it's about the idea that you think you know what everybody thinks co-creation is, and you think you're all on the same page, but it's really important to identify that people use language differently, people have different agendas, and it's about thinking and really explicitly thinking about what they are, and then coming together to negotiate that to all be then working towards the same agenda or outcome. So we had some key reflections which I'm going to sort of embed within the slides about that need to think about the concepts and the language that people use, getting everybody on the same page first before you start. A lot of people sort of jump in and try to go straight into activities to solve problems, but actually it's really about thinking about who you're working with first. And that need to then develop that shared problem, issue or question, and the negotiation. And you'll see some of the people, I think I've embarrassed Dermot already, so they're describing. And just to think about the 5 levels of listening. So this is something that Helen Bevan, who's actually from Coventry, has put up on her Twitter feed that we like. So this idea that the more you listen, the more you'll get out of the process. And so at sort of the superficial level of listening, it's about listening just to think about what I'm going to say next and what it means to me. And then at the more deeper active levels of listening, it's about listening because you want to hear what it means to that person, for thinking about how it relates to their world. And then the next stage, the next theme is the problem formulation. So you can also use the picture challenge for that. You can ask people to think about what the barriers are and the successes or enablers are to those barriers. So we've got some lovely pictures here of some dark, cloudy barriers and some sunny enablers and successes. The fishbowl is quite a good one. You can get people in circles, and you have a middle circle and an outside circle, and the idea behind that is that the inner circle are the ones that are answering a question, and the outer circle are the ones that are actively listening and writing notes. You swap, the inner circle then answers a different question, and then they turn and face each other. So the inner circle turns and face their partner on the outer circle, and then they come up with the top 5 things that have come out of the discussion to answer a question. And then you can put those top 5 things into a word cloud as well. Word clouds can be used for many things. We also have, if you want to know more about any of these activities, we do have worksheets and things, and they'll all be available on the website. But if you want them before the website has them on there, then just contact us and we can send you them. And the cube, which will be embedded in many ways throughout the day. And this was something that was developed at Coventry University, led by Paul McGee. And the idea behind the cube is that people were originally sitting in meeting rooms and just, putting things on paper, or it was quite stuffy. And the idea behind the cube is to ensure that everybody has a voice, to allow people to use colour pens, because everyone loves colour pens, and to have it so that people pass it around. And the idea is that if you're using the cube today, try not to hold on to it. Think about what you want to say it, write it down, pass it on. And it's about sharing it. The thing with the cube as well, that was one of the things that we reflected on, is that really think about the time that you're working with people. So a lot of people say, I don't have time to do much. And one of the reasons that we've done some of these tools is to try and find short ways of things that you can do things with people. But also bear in mind that something short like 10 minutes, you might not have it in a space where everybody feels that they get a chance to have their say, and that all of the ideas are down. And the other thing that also often happens with the cube, if you're using it for problem formulation and you say, right, think about what the problems are and the barriers are, people in the first 10 minutes think what the barriers are, and then the last 20 minutes of the 30-minute activity try and come up with the solutions. Please try not to do that when you're using it today. The idea is to really spend time, the whole time, working on the task and not jumping ahead. And the other thing is to really not just, one of our sort of ways where we like to be polite and work with each other is to think about all of our similarities together. But it is also important to think about the differences and how that can create strengths and weaknesses within the group, and how you can really harness those differences and move forward and co-create with them. One of the interesting things that came out So first of all, there was a thing of what do we call the people taking part in these activities? People, service users or stakeholders or well, we don't like those words. Well, aren't they just people? But isn't then that everybody? So then what do we call the people that it's relevant to? And the word that people liked in the course was co-creators. So that's what we call them now. The other thing is about the word empowerment. So this was something that was also something really interesting that came out of the course, was about this question of empowerment, but doesn't that give the impression that someone is giving power to someone else? And then isn't that an issue? So there was this whole discussion about, well, actually what it should be, it's about everybody has power, and what you're doing as a facilitator is you're providing a space for people to harness that power in. So it's about thinking about the words that we're using and what they actually mean to people. So then solution formulation, there's a simulation game, and the idea is that you pose a scenario and you pose different barriers that people might come up with over a period of time. You kind of disrupt their thinking every sort of 10 minutes. And the idea is that they then have to come up and change the game, and it's sort of related to sort of real life barriers that they might come across and that they might want to solve together, and it creates that sort of facilitation process together. The poster activity with the pitch, the idea is that you give people lots of different creative tools, put flip chart paper on the table, have some pens and different things like that, and you ask people to come up with a solution to one of the problems that they've come up with. And the idea is that they then come up with a pitch and present that at the end of the activity, like 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. And it sounds really simple, but that is one of the biggest ones that people really enjoy, and it had some really great buzz that came out at the end of the day. And then the one that everyone knows and loves is Lego. It's also really great for helping people to be creative without needing to be able to draw. There will certainly be some Lego today. And the idea is that you can be creative, but it's also about that being messy and not being precious about the artifact that you've created. So you can have a go at the Lego, or you can have a go at a poster, and then someone else, you can get a different group to come along and change it, annotate it, take the Lego apart, put it back together again. Different people have different solutions, and the idea is that it's an iterative process that develops over time. It's important, one of the things that came out from the course is this importance of thinking about what is confidential. If people are sharing something that doesn't go out of that room, it's important to know that and think about how that works in with the co-creation process that you're taking part in. So that can be part of the rules of engagement that you decide together, how you're going to manage that within your co-creation. And people will come and go during that process. So just thinking about having those rules up whenever you're having engagement with each other. But if people are new coming in, maybe they don't agree with the rules, maybe they have a new one they want to add. So it's about constantly revising and thinking about those rules together with whoever's coming in and going out. And also there was ideas about, well, I don't just do co-creation, I don't just work locally, I work nationally or internationally, so how might I handle that? And there were some ideas that came up, some of the solutions about how you might snowball that, how one group might work on something, and then we called it parts of parcel was one of the solutions that came up, and how that can be passed from one group to another and iteratively developed, as well as just individuals working on something that's locally relevant. There were some ideas about how you can also do co-creation using multimedia. So the photo challenge that we're doing later will also be something that people will be tweeting that will create a collaborative ideas that everybody could see. And also there's been some ways of working in terms of webinar. I know that's definitely something that NHS England have really taken on about the way that they work. You've got Lisa, Lorraine and Helen, if you want to just give waves. Been using webinars as well, so if you've got any questions about that, please do have a chat. And think about the sustainability and sharing that responsibility throughout. Sharing the responsibility can help with the sustainability because it's not all just taken on by one person. So then dissemination. Storytelling is a big one in dissemination in co-creation. It's about, we had Naomi Brooks who came in, who worked for Coventry City Council and Grapevine, and she came in and said she's really great at storytelling, and she gave some tips, top tips, but also she was a great inspiration because of her work in practice. And she said, you know, people were saying, well, I don't know how to do this. My manager won't let me do co-creation, but I really want to do it. And one of the discussions was had is that it's not always asked how to do something, it's asked what to do, i.e. develop a service. And so Naomi just used co-creation to do the thing that she'd been asked to do, and she just embedded it, and it was successful, so the manager didn't have an issue. And the idea of storytelling, when you're thinking about your stories, to think about portraying the challenge, the choice that you've had to make, so that could be like a shift in the way that you think or something that changed, the outcome, and then a call to action. What do you want to happen as a result of this story? Story cubes are great. They can be bought on Amazon, or I think Nikki found some for £3 in Tiger recently. They are really good for, they have little pictures on them, and you throw the dice and you think, okay, there's an eye here. Well, taking part in this process has been an eye-opener to me. So it's about getting everybody to have a go and to roll those dice and to think about how those pictures can be metaphors for what you want to portray, and they can help people think outside the box. You can then put them into themes and develop them into how you want to disseminate your story. Cocreate is quite a good one to use in terms of if you're going to use PowerPoint presentation, because actually it's short, snappy pictures, and it's like very, very short, and I think it's 6 minutes, 40 seconds in total, 20 slides. And then you can use this Cocreate outline to help you map what's going to go in your Cocreate as well, which we can provide. So we evaluated the course, and it went really well. We scored 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 on all of the different elements of the course. People enjoyed it. The main things that people liked were the walk and talk, the fishbowl, the story cubes, the cube, and the Cocreate activities. And the key thing was that people really wanted to stay in touch and to sustain, and I think that's been a great thing, because that means that we've had people involved in co-creating this event with us today as well. The improvements that happened as a result was just creating a bit more clarity on what the process was. It was a very hands-on and experiential course, because we wanted people to come straight in and co-create, but we realised that people didn't know why they were there, so we had to tell them. And the other thing was about that worry about doing small little bits and bobs, because when they come along to the course, it was a worry that this is this big, one-off, large method that you had to really think about and plan and do right. And actually, when we sort of got that feedback, it was a case of, okay, let's think about how we can really embed this in everyday communication with people. You know, if you're going to organise a meeting, do it in a co-creative way. If you're going to organise an event, get everybody involved that wants to help to create it, and then it's a shared responsibility from the start, and people feel like it's theirs more than they would do. Some of the key barriers to co-creation was around not having all of the different stakeholders involved or co-creators involved, and thinking about how to do that, and that people were often largely focused on an outcome or an objective before they knew what the problem was. And it often turned into a consultation process as a result. And then also, like I talked about in terms of getting buy-in from managers, and thinking about how to develop that consensus. So one of the things as facilitators that we noticed was that people weren't agreeing the rules from the start, and that they weren't necessarily taking responsibility as a shared responsibility. They were taking it all on themselves. So getting people to come in and going, oh yes, this is really great, you know, we've got all these great ideas, and then they'd go away and it would be up to the facilitator to put that into practice. But that's not realistic, and it's about, when you're co-creating, not just thinking about what you want to happen, but how it's going to happen and who's going to do things. And we also iteratively develop the course to think about the buy-in and have project management language to help people communicate with managerial staff as well. So here's a word cloud from what people found was really beneficial, and hopefully you'll get some of that benefit today as well. And so then what happened next? Well, we all came together and fed back about what happened in our countries, and then developed that further into toolkits, which, as I say, is going to be available on the website. And please do give feedback about these postcards as well today. This is iterative development, this isn't the final solution, so we would like your feedback to then develop these further, and we're hoping to use them again in the future. We'll be having a final conference in Brussels in July, which was when the website will be launched with all the tools on there. And the idea is that this is a train-the-trainer model. So here's a great example of how we've then gone and co-designed the course further with NHS England, which will be talked about next. And also then that's gone on to then be used in practice. So it's, we want people to use these tools. We want people, they are freely available, and there's a Creative Commons license which just says it's free to use, it shouldn't be used for profit, so people can't charge for them, but if you are going to use them, please just acknowledge that these came from the Co-Creating Welfare course, and if you want just a copy of that sentence, please do let us know. So today is not just about the tools in the Co-Creating Welfare project. We have fabulous speakers and fabulous workshops, and they're from a range of different things. So please do try and chat to as many people as you can and find out about the different tools that are being here today and the different projects, and have a look at the stands. Please do tweet, and if you haven't already, please choose which of the 3 workshops you would like to go to. There's doing co-creation, there's one on commissioning, and there's one on disability. And just to talk a bit more about the picture challenge and the walks and the tours at lunchtime. So the picture challenge is something that people can do throughout the day, but then Andrew will also be running a walk and talk in the last 15 minutes of lunchtime as well, and hopefully it won't rain. And the idea is throughout the day and at lunchtime, have a chat about the barriers enablers to workplace wellbeing, and thinking about towards more equal outcomes in the workplace. Take photos together to represent your ideas. They can be metaphorical, they don't have to be literal. And create a tagline or a short summary to go with each photo and what it represents. And then tweet it. If you don't have a Twitter account, there are many people in the room that do, so please do find them. Or if you don't want to do that, then you can email it to us, just speak to one of us organisers, and we can put it up on the screen later. And if you just tweet it with the hashtag co-creating welfare and hashtag workplace wellbeing. There's also a tour of this venue, which has got a maximum of 20 people, and if you'd like to do that, please do sign up. It was on the registration desk, but if it's gone, then you can speak to some of the groups at the back. And you should all have your programme of the day on your tables, and also information about the different speakers and workshops. Any questions, please do come and ask us, and please do network. And that's me. So I will now welcome up, is it all of you talking, or? Yeah, so Helen, Lee, Lorraine Wolfenden and Lisa Ramsey are going to be talking from NHS England about how this then went on and moved on to the NHS England.